There we go. All right, I just need to fix this issue here before we begin. Perfect. All right. So, where was I? Okay, so yeah, pros and cons for iclone. Yeah, you can get pretty good facial animation. The problem is, uh, you know, some of the plugins can be. They like to throw out so many plugins, and it's kind of tough to decide what you need, and that's kind of hard to tell. It's just a tough answer, you know. Hopefully, hopefully my answer in the comments helped you. How do you add the light on the shot at the end of the video? Hold on. Let's go see. Oh, okay. You were wondering about this kind of lighting. Oh, all right. Yes. Wow. Yeah, we can actually go over some lighting. Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I should actually fix some of the animation. Yeah, I need like probably reduce some of the animation. I'm hoping to get this project done by in a couple weeks or so. Huh? So just load this up. There we go. All right, so what I'm going to do is let's just make a set. And I'll just call it test. Save selected. Now, let's say this. You want to film something outdoors. In fact, let's actually go in. Let's actually go to the main level. And let's bring a character in. So this is something I often see people try when they bring a character into the Unreal Engine. They use this default lighting setup, and it's often quite harsh. You know, just like this, and I've seen people try to animate. I seen like one time I saw this music video someone did. I won't say names. I won't call it what it was. I'll just let you know it was a music video, and they were so overexposed. They were lighting using this default lighting, and they had this very harsh shadow here. So the first thing I tell people is don't rely on this kind of lighting for Unreal Engine. A couple plugins I do recommend is one is Ultra Dynamic Sky, because you get to have full control. Now you can actually control the lighting of the sky thing. You can actually make your own sky lighting quite easily. I just prefer working with Ultra Dynamic Sky because you just get a lot more control, plus you get a lot more tools to work with. So let's just have a character here. Let's just make a quick sequence. And I'll just break down your lighting. So let's just, I think it was like scared or something. There you go. So we have Ultra Dynamic Sky. And eventually I'll just tear this down and we'll do like a studio lighting setup too. But this is just outdoor here. So I see people filming in the middle of the day. What this will do, it has like this very harsh shadow. And it's kind of hard to work with. So if we just bring in a camera. So another thing is there's two things to consider. One is your lighting and one is your camera and how your camera reacts to lighting. The more you know about it, the better off you'll be. How your camera reacts to light, especially if you want to shoot. And let's just change it to, let's do like a 58. And first of all, I'm going to shut off everything. Do this movie. 24, and then let's just do 2.4 for the aperture. So when the camera is going from the mesh is disappearing. It's probably your LODs. That's LOD. So you have to go into your mesh and actually do one. Just remember, keep it. You have to work with your LOD. You have to work with LOD or some with nanite. So yeah, you can see the lighting. Obviously, keep this in mind. The aperture is, it kind of opens up. The more you open it up, obviously, if you want to shoot deep focus, but the more lighting you need, the more light you need, because it needs to take in more light. So if you're shooting with shallow depth of field, you'll need less light, but they used to bake these actors in light in Hollywood films like anytime. You can actually change this with something called exposure compensation. So this is kind of lighting. So if you're wondering what kind of lighting, how to get good outdoor lighting, number one, we need to make sure the character's in focus for starters. Number one is I'd like to set things at I don't like to film in kind of going off my old method. I always like to shoot like late afternoon or so. So I have to think about where the sun. You can think about where the sun is, stuff like that. That's not too bad, but I don't want that. I want something a little more dramatic. So I always think about where the character's standing. So blocking, I always consider blocking here. But let's just make some lights here. And not only that, but let's also lock everything down. So when it comes to lights, for metahumans such as, like, is there any animation available for metahumans such as walking, running, idle, like mix them all? Yeah, hold on. There's a free motion set for you. You can look into. It's just for some basic stuff. They always you can find in the marketplace. It's by a company called Modus. Now, walking, running, and idle. Yeah. Let me see if I can find it for you guys. This is just some basic stuff. Here. I'm not sure if it'll work. You may have to retarget, and you may have to adjust it, but you have to look at some. You're going to have to look at what they have here and learn it. I have to retarget those. But anyway, back to my lighting. So when it comes to lighting, there's a couple things to consider. One is directional, point, spots, and rectangular light. Directional lighting is much more for outdoors. Then you have points, spots, and rectangular. Personally, I like rectangular lights because they resemble box lighting. So it's basically just a plane of light, and I get to control this light. So I kind of, like I said, I have some experience working with live action. So that's how I kind of approach it. And we have something here. So a couple things to consider. Number one is if you set your rectangular light, and not only that, but you want to set it to movable. So otherwise, yeah, just set it to movable. Otherwise, it's going to flash this weird error code at you. So, there's a couple of things I like to consider. There's something called a 3-point lighting system. So you have a harsh key. And I'm going to rename this to key light. And then we're going to make another light. So I'm going to duplicate this and do it like 90 degrees. And we're going to actually reduce this by like 2 and reduce the color. So if we go to our camera setup here, just make some adjustments here. This is called a fill light. What a fill light does is it's going to eliminate your shadows. There's something called to consider. So if we do here and go to 2, it kind of eliminates shadows. And then finally, we're going to add one more set of lights. This could be a point light, this could be, but I'll just do another rectangular light. This is what I call a backlight. Key, fill, and back. This is called a 3-point lighting system. So you want this little ring around the character. What it's going to do is it's going to add depth to your character. Key, fill, and back. Now it's going to mess with her hair, but that's okay. But yeah, that's your standard 3-point lighting system. You want a sharp key, fill to eliminate the shadows, and a backlight. Now, for there's certain kinds of lighting. This, if we just go to fill and just kind of eliminate the shadows a bit. And that boat's also tone down some of the key lighting, the backlight. This is what we call a high key lighting system. High key lighting is where there's no shadows, no contrast. This is much more for happier scenes. This is, happier scenes comedy uses this kind of lighting. Also, keep in mind, there's these little reflections of light, the little beams of light there. You kind of want these because people like that. Kind of adds a little bit more life to the character. Compared to like this dead-eyed doll look. Just adding a little glint of light to the eyes here adds a huge amount of detail in your life when it comes to scenes, especially some serious, if you want to bring life to the eyes. So that's high key. A low key lighting system is, let's just go to fill. And let's actually just radically change the lighting here. So let's do 2350. Something like this. In fact, if we want to be cute, this is something this is just a little tip. If you're doing a black and white film, turn down the camera's saturation, because lighting in black and white is much more, it's a different world than lighting in color. Instead of working with color as your depth, you're working with shadow. So always, if you're doing a film in black and white, have your camera saturation turned off. What I used to do in iclone, when I was filming black and white scenes, I always desaturated everything. This was before they did the visual effects stuff for iClone. I used to desaturate characters, desaturate the sets and props and everything, because working with lighting and all that, because you have to create some depth with your light, with your shadows. There's a contrast. So that's just a little suggestion for anybody. So I'll just set the value back to 1. So yeah, this would be more of a low-key lighting setup. That's more for dramatic stuff. In fact, let's just return this back to normal and do something. I'm going to make several adjustments. Let me just simulate the real sun. There's certain kinds of light, how you approach it. So if we go back to our lighting here, sorry, the chair's creaking a lot. So yeah, this is just to explain. And let's just make sure. I just want to make sure I'll get everything all set up. There we go. Okay. And make sure she's in focus. So there's something called so with this kind of lighting, what's also, I want to increase the key light just a little bit more. Let's do like 6. There we go. All right, so let's just explain the difference between. Well, there's kind of a. Let's see. There's something called let's see. It's some. Just give me a second. Sorry. Thought I got a message here. All right, never mind. All right, no worries. Okay. So there's something called broadside and short side. Smart and dumb. We'll just refer this to, so smart side lighting. Smart side is known as short side, and dumb side is broadside. But we'll just call it dumb side and smart side. This here would be smart side lighting. This is short side. So let's say if we have the, let's just actually put the camera a little bit more here. There we go. I want the camera at the opposite end where the light is facing. This is what we call short side. This is more for dramatic scenes. Like I said, this is more for dramatic. Just like that right there. Because there's a... Yeah, I think this is a pretty good example of short side lighting. Which I recommend for you. Yeah, Chameleon. Okay, I'll look into that. Yeah, so this is much more for dramatic stuff, and then if you want to get into dumb side lighting, or into broadside, you would film from here. Broadside lighting is much more for happier scenes. This kind of lighting is much more for dramatic stuff. Not only that, but there's a little bit of depth to play with. So the next thing I'm going to bring up is color temperature. And it can be found down here. Technically, daylight is 5500. So one thing I always see people do is they usually have this bright white light for daytime scenes, and that's it doesn't work out very well. So unless you have something that's really overcast, which is what, 9000. It has a more bluish thing, but most of the time you're just dealing with, let's say if you want to shoot in daylight, you could do 5500. Late afternoon could be like anywhere from 445 to at least 5000. But 5500 is what we work with. And you could tell instantly how much more life it kind of brings out, doesn't it? White light, and then you get a little bit of gold right there. Just kind of brings it out. This is just something to really consider. Let's actually go to magic. Just go to golden hour, which our lighting would be at 3000. So no, that I would actually would do. Yeah, kind of light and golden hour would be. I would kind of find where the light source is, where the sun is, and work with the character on that. But yeah, and there's also magic hour, but that's kind of different to work with. Magic hour and golden hour, kind of something to look into. But yeah, knowing back to 5500. And let's go back to here and just get that to 0.75. I really hope, I'm not sure how well this will help people out when it comes to lighting like this. This is just outdoor scenes. I really haven't talked about indoor lighting, which I will. Let's just go and bring something in. Let's just get rid of our lights here and get a light. In fact, let's just screw it. I might as well bring this in. Just bring in a prop. And I'll call it lamp. So you've probably seen this lamp before in Endgame. Oh, we're bringing it back just for this example here. I just want to make sure this is roughness, so just need to first the so let's just bring in a point light. And we'll just go to the other sin that I see. Besides the having a character stand behind a white wall, which is boring, but that's besides the point. Is there anything in here that I could use? So when I set my scene up, let's just pretend I'm not going to worry about it too much. So I have this point light here, and let's pretend there's a lamp. I see people do this a lot. I've seen people do this with fire for some reason. They just let an emission and then they put a white light there, and suddenly there's no light for this lamp. No, don't do that. That makes me very upset at you. So what I like to do is, if I see a lamp, or I can even just put a lamp, it just gets the idea, like give the audience the idea something's in there. So if I put a light here, and you can actually increase the size of this with your source radius. So we press G. I hope with that, let's go like 5. At least 5, and then put a source radius in. And finally put some like 4. Then we can work off of this. So that now that, but I also set this at 3250, which is going to be your what's normally for tungsten light. Did I just... And we'll just duplicate this here. So next is that we have this light. I always think about a light source. So let's go back to our rectangular light. Keep in mind, this is why I like these things. Instead of making it white light, I kind of adjust the size, 32 by like 32 or something. Or you just have to eyeball it and see what works best for you. And it might even take me a couple tries to get this right. So just make sure it's the same color temperature. And I'll probably just adjust it to like 2. Sometimes you won't even see the light. Sometimes I just do this. And finally, we get some of this light. Then we add our little 3-point lighting system here. And you just kind of have to eyeball it, but this is what you do. In fact, let's get a little bit more light in here for her. Something that creates a little bit more depth. And then there's also color, which, yeah. So maybe I just do it here. Yeah, I hope that really helps people out with some lighting, I guess, but maybe not. Also, since there's a little bit of light, what I like to do is where's my light? Get up there. There you go. Just like that. May have to slowly adjust it. Want more light. Let's see. At one point I could make a horror movie. I'm just kind of showing some lighting. Yeah, we probably don't even see the light, but we could just turn that off. Iclone to Unreal. You know, actually, oh, that would be fun. Just reminds me, don't I have a... Oh, I could do a horror film, but that would be much later. That would be... don't I have something? Yep. I certainly do. Yeah, let's go see. What does it look like? Ah, screw it. And it crashed. Yeah, I could... Ooh, yeah, I could definitely teach you guys like how to light horror films. Well, let's just go to Shock Deck. Let's see. Well, that's a good one. Yeah, skip it. Sorry, I'm just looking up. Yeah, let's see. I don't know. All right. I don't think you guys. It would be interesting. I haven't. Like the closest thing I've done to horror in Unreal Engine would be this one. I'll show you. This was something that took me like at least a few days or so, just to work with. Where is it? It's a very, very simple. Just took me 2 days, and I was bored, or not so much bored, but I was like, I want it done. I just kind of made it up as I went along. So that would be. That'd be the closest I would do to a horror movie as of late, but I could be interesting. Oh, I could leave that up. But yeah, it's getting late right now, so I'm gonna call it good. And I mean, if anyone has any other questions, hopefully that helps you with some lighting, I guess. I'll probably see if I could do one live stream tomorrow. Then I'm gonna take a couple days off. You know, I probably need some time off. So anyway, that'll do.